Hello and welcome, everybody. I see all of you logging in, and of course, I always look forward to Mondays now for the online book club. And welcome from all over the US and even from Poland. Oh my, wow, thank you for being here. It's, um, it's such a nice feeling to be among mind like people and that we are all trying to learn about what it really means to follow a true whole food plant-based way of eating and the tricks that we have to play because of this environment we're in now, which we were really not meant to be in it, but we'll talk about that in just a minute. So I'm Gustavo Tolosa, and I want to remind you. Let me do a little bit of a commercial, 2 minute commercial here. I want to remind you that in my YouTube channel, which is under my name, Gustavo Tolosa, Tolosa, you can find playlists that I've taken the time to organize for you, and you can find previous book clubs which have such a wealth of information there, not only because of the book clubs but because of the guests and because of the cooking demos as well, and sometimes me playing the piano for you. You can also find a playlist with recipes. There are some really awesome recipes for you. Those are free. You can also find a playlist with webinars with other doctors like Dr. McDougall and Chef. There's Dr. Ponyman, Chef AJ is there, many others. And you can also find a playlist with music, with some concerts and performances that I have done. All of that is free there. Also, there are some free videos on the website, which is plantemas.com, PLANT, like plant, and then EMUS.com. You can find videos there. And of course, you can find some more information and videos and posts in my Facebook page, which is Dr. Starch, all spelled out. So take advantage of that. And if you would like to help, I have a link that I include in the description area of the videos and then in the emails that go out. If you'd like to help me continue to create free content, here I'm going to put, there is a link. You can make any donation that you like. You don't have to, of course. But if you would like to, I would be very grateful. I want to tell you about last Tuesday. Last Tuesday, we had the first episode of Tea with Dr. T. I love to drink tea. And at the college and the university, they call me Dr. T when I teach there. So it's Tea with Dr. T on Tuesdays. And we had a wonderful episode, first episode. It's you and I in my living room, although I broadcasted from my living room there, and just having about 45 minutes of just visiting together, and you get to know me better. You can ask me questions about my experiences, my challenges. I tell you stories. I show you, sometimes I introduce you to people in my life. I take you to places as I run around during the week and as I travel. So it really is a wonderful time. We focus on positive thinking only during those 40 or 45 minutes. And besides that, besides Tea with Dr. T, you get access to 10 of my special cooking webinars where I put my famous grandmother's baked polenta with tomato sauce and the gnocchi and the filled baked pears. I mean, many other things that you can get by being part of the Gustavo's fan club. So if you're interested, please send me an email at info@plantemas.com. I'll put all this in an email. Okay, that's enough for that. I just want to make time to make sure that everybody is here. And last week, I showed everybody this tea and I told a story about this tea. And this week, tomorrow, I went to a place here and I made a video where I got this. And tomorrow, I'm going to be trying this tea. And I'm also going to be showing you where I got this bag and what it has and what I'm going to do with that. So, and I will share a story that you probably never heard of it, how I came into being the host of the McDougall webinars for years. And I think that's an interesting story. So anyway, if you want to join me every Tuesday for a nice cup of tea, let me know, send me an email, and I'll send you the link so you can register. All right, so today I want to show you my baked sweet potato, red potato, and an apple that it has the leaf there still. This is food as we are meant, as we were meant to eat and are meant to eat. Whole food and plant-based. And what this book is about is how our brains are daily and constantly hijacked by this modern life, which has brought us a lot of wonderful things, but it has also put us in an environment that is totally strange to us. If you think of, let's pretend that we are in the year 100, maybe, okay, in the year 200, what would life be? Let's not even go to the prehistoric times, even though our human body has really not changed that much, and our brain configuration, basically, like Dr. Lyle says, we are the basic purpose of us human beings is survival. If you really think about it, we want to survive and we want to use energy as efficiently as possible and reproduce. Those are things that it's like they've been ingrained in our DNA, and that is what we read about last week. It's very profound. So sometimes I'm putting this in very simple terms, but it would be good to reread chapter 2 and 3, where he talks about that. But when you think about 2,000 years ago, where would you get your food? Where would you get it? Maybe you had a place in the back of your house or hut, whatever it was, and you would have some vegetables there, or maybe if you're lucky, some fruit, trees, and or you would exchange it with other people. Maybe there was some kind of a market sometimes, but you would not have access 7 days a week, 24 hours a day of rich food like we have today in our modern supermarkets, which if you go about 100 years ago, we don't even have them anyway. So all of this, when you go into a supermarket and there's 10,000 products and they are configured and arranged in a very specific way for marketing, for you to get those things that make money, and this doesn't really make money. They're at the supermarket for some kind of variety, but really what makes money is all the other super processed foods. And so our brain is hijacked because we look for pleasure and we look for high caloric content foods for survival. And we need to think about that because that is key. We are living in an environment that is hostile to us all the time. It's not made for us. And we have to work at it. And that's why we have doctors like Dr. McDougall and Dr. Esselstyn and Dr. Neil Barnard and wonderful people like Chef AJ and Kathy Fisher, etc., and places like True North where you can be sure that you're protected there from all of these attacks that we have in our modern life. All right, so today I got the electronic version of the book, which it was like $6 and something at Amazon. So if you want to get it there, you can. And I am on page, let's see, 19 right now in the electronic version. And let me see, this is chapter 3. There is a very interesting story about this young man that is pursuing this young woman. And then on page 19, it says the pleasure trap. And I want to start there. Feel free to write comments and questions. I will be reading them as I go. So under the title, The Pleasure Trap, on page 19 of this electronic version, it says, if our great Shrike was simply presented with a receptive female and never required to gather this stuff that he gathers to compete for her, would his life be better? Basically, like, okay, would my life be better if I was just given a doctorate in my hand today, or would it be more satisfying to work at it for years and eventually receive the prize? If all he had to do was sit in a cage and pick a magic button in order for her to appear, would this be the path to a better life? Or would he be missing something enormously important? So Dr. Lyle and Dr. Goldhammer, who are the authors of this book, it says, we believe that he would indeed be missing something important. While he would be experiencing as much sexual pleasure as his nervous system could tolerate, he would be experiencing little of the moods of happiness that are natural guideposts to achieving that pleasure. And yet, if we were to give him a choice between these two ways of obtaining females, he would undoubtedly choose to pick the magic button. Would a magic button today be the supermarket or going online and ordering any kind of food we want? Because he is designed by nature to seek pleasure while using as little energy as possible. This bird that he describes just as us human as well, maybe, of course, in a more intricate way, but we are designed by nature to seek pleasure while using as little energy as possible. So his senses could be fooled by artificial feedback, resulting in choices that seem right but are self-destructive. We call this type of mistake that happens in the brain an example of the pleasure trap. But what about human beings? Are we also susceptible to this mistake? Of course we are, and the consequences of these decision-making errors are staggering. In our view, the pleasure trap is the root of the vast majority of disease, disability, and unhappiness in Western civilization. This is a powerful statement, to be sure, but in the pages that follow, we intend to back it up. For starters, let's look at just one example of how the motivational triad can be fooled. Yes, it can be fooled. And how deceptive this process can be. So we're going to look at that example. And before we do that, let me look at if there are any comments here. It's on my page 20 in the book. Okay, thank you, guys. I don't think the printed version and the electronic version are quite synchronized, but it's probably a page off. Okay, sometimes if you get a bad reception, because who knows, it could be, if your computer is not hooked to the internet by a cable, actually the Wi-Fi goes like this, and you get times when it's better and if a lot of people in your house are using the internet, then it makes it worse. And if your computer has open other programs like email or Facebook or Skype or anything that run in the background, that will also influence. But the replay is usually fine because it's a recording. Okay, so let's look at this very interesting example. And this is on page 20 in my book. It could be on 21 in your book. I don't know, but it says, in the late 1800s, a young physician thought he had found the key to happiness. After experimenting with many drugs, he came to believe that a newly synthesized substance, cocaine, was a wonder drug. He prescribed it to his friends and patients, and he took it himself. But after a time, he came to understand its danger. His patients deteriorated, and the friend committed suicide. He himself became miserable. Sigmund Freud, the father of psychoanalysis, had been seduced by cocaine. Cocaine is a popular recreational drug, and for understandable reasons. Its use causes powerful pleasure system reactions, and we know what that means. It means that a key component of the motivational triad, the pleasure-seeking component, is activated. So you have this triad, and one of the components, the one that seeks pleasure, gets activated with this drug. And thus, the brain is receiving a signal that says something very good and valuable for our survival and or reproduction is happening. Keep doing it. If this is not incentive enough, another component of the motivational triad also comes into play. The use of cocaine is an easy way to obtain pleasure. Little effort is needed, and thus the energy conservation component of the motivational triad also encourages continued use. Addiction is often the result. So chronic use, continuous use, will eventually cause damage to the pleasure mechanism of the brain, and such damage can be permanent. The normal pleasure neurochemistry is disrupted, and now the healthy pleasures of life will fail to signal success in a satisfying fashion. Drug addiction is a primary example of the pleasure trap. So there is a subtitle that says Deceiving the Motivational Triad. And so there is research done with animals, and it has confirmed the power of drugs to deceive the motivational triad. So Dr. Lyle and Dr. Goldhammer write in the second paragraph after the subtitle Deceiving the Motivational Triad. Pleasure responses caused by drugs can overwhelm and deceive the natural mechanisms of feeling good. We do have natural mechanisms that allow us to feel good, but they can be disruptive. Okay, the senses of animals can be fooled. The motivational triad was not designed to manage such deceptive stimulation. Thus, self-destructive decisions are often the result. Basically, we're just not designed to manage this overstimulation that our present life provides. And then it says, but enough about rats and pigeons. The important issue is that we humans are similarly dependent upon the motivational triad to guide our way. If we expose ourselves to experiences that can deceive this delicate system, poor choices are the predictable result. This book is about much more than drugs. It is the larger story about how modern life can deceive the motivational triad within each of us and what we must do to protect ourselves. And I like that last sentence there. Modern life. This is something that we deal with. You know, people, again, 2,000 years ago, either didn't have to deal with it or very little with it. Modern life can deceive this motivational triad within each of us and can create big problems. But we will learn what to do to protect ourselves. So, very interesting. I just find this fascinating. So then Dr. Lyle and Dr. Goldhammer go into the magic buttons to True North. So, of course, you all know that True North is an actual place in Santa Rosa, California. But let's see what this is about, these magic buttons. We have become ingenious at inventing magic buttons, each of which is its own potential pleasure trap. Recreational drugs, fast foods, television, modern medicine, the electric light bulb, the glorification of casual sex, and gambling are powerful features of our social landscape that can be deceptively dangerous. There are more than these, but those are some of them. While innovation is often useful and important in human life, many of our modern advances have been problematic. They often trap our motivational machinery into inducing self-destructive behavior. Until recently, our motivational triad worked like a nearly infallible internal compass, pointing in a behavioral direction that we refer to as true north. The motivational triad used to encourage behavior that was consistent with the pursuit of our health and happiness. This motivational triad we talked about was working perfectly and consistently to pursue health and happiness. For our ancient ancestors, the path toward more pleasure with less pain and for less effort was almost always the right path to choose. Okay, so listen to this. For our ancestors, the right path to choose was almost always the path toward more pleasure with less pain and for less effort. But that's no longer true. Today, the workings of that internal compass are being disrupted so that it is no longer, we cannot rely on it anymore. We must learn to recognize when it is failing to point us in the right direction and when to act against our instincts if necessary. We even sometimes have to act against our instincts because we are in another surreal, in a way, fake uh, environment that we were not prepared for. And we have to be prepared to act against our own instincts. To the degree that we are successful, we may enjoy the bounty of the modern world's innovation without compromising our health and happiness. The various phases of the pleasure trap can be highly deceptive. We need both awareness and determination to stay on course. So I just want to see if anybody has any questions or any comments about what we have just read. Again, these are very thought provoking and very um, in deep thoughts that take time to process, I think, and realize and accept that in our modern world, we many times cannot trust our instinct. Um, so that is the basic topic of this book. All right, I see that there are no comments or no questions yet or anything like that. And then at the end of the chapter, Dr. Lyle and Dr. Goldhammer have a subtitle that says Summing Up. So let's read this because this basically sums up the chapter. And it says, in nature, certain experiences are designed to encourage successful behavior. As such, they are extremely pleasant and reinforcing. The primary sources of pleasure are food and sexual activity. The primary sources of pleasure on a basic biological way are food and sexual activity. This is because success in these arenas is necessary for survival and reproduction. I mean, without the food, we die, and without the sexual activity, there's no reproduction. Such moments are biologically expensive and are thus designed only to be very short term, minutes rather than hours. In contrast, the moods of happiness are a different reward system. That's another reward system. Though not as intense, they are not naturally limited. We are designed by nature to sustain positive moods all day, so long as we seem to be making progress toward worthwhile goals, usually incremental steps toward pleasure or pain avoidance. Modern life has magic buttons that can short circuit the natural connection between happiness and pleasure seeking behavior. With products such as recreational drugs, processed foods, pain relieving medications, and gambling. These magic buttons are dangerous as they appeal to the instincts embedded in the motivational triad, but rob their victims of health and happiness. This deceiving of our instincts is what we have termed the pleasure trap. That is the end of chapter 3. And let's see if I can read these comments. I think it is true that not just awareness, but you must be determined. Yeah, yeah, definitely. Nowadays, we have to be determined because it would be much easier for me to get in the car or even walk um, just 5 minutes and buy this sumptuous piece of, let's say, a chocolate cake or something, something decadent like that. And of course, I'm designed to seek the high caloric, high fat foods for survival. It's just that now I'm not running all day long chasing for food, and I'm not, or let's say I don't walk everywhere because I don't have a car or a bicycle, and I'm not um, washing my clothes by hands and all that. So eating this does actually, at least at the beginning, take more. Um, it takes more determination. Let's see what it says here. Hold on, let me turn off the camera so I can read better. Realizing we are in a food minefield definitely makes me understand why it's so hard. Yes. I think that's a good analogy there. When we leave our protected environment in our houses, hopefully your house has an environment that is clean. When we leave it, when I leave it, I really do feel, and particularly the times when I have been able to stay at True North, and you leave, it's such a strange feeling because it feels that you're thrown into this minefield, into this war zone where you're going to be attacked by um, from all senses. The eyesight, you're going to see things, the smell, commercials. There's food everywhere. Even not, even in gas stations where that was not. I mean, it would you wouldn't even consider that being a possibility. Gas station, movie theaters, uh, the checkout lines at supermarkets. I mean, you name it. There's food, or what we would call food in a very generic term, everywhere. Let's see what um, one of you says. It is interesting that our modern innovations where food is concerned, is our downfall in our health. In other parts of the world where fast food is still cooked by hawkers, but they don't use processed foods. Hawkers in Asia prepare rice and veggies as they have traditional done without preservatives for shelf life. Yes. So if we could just think about food as real things that you recognize that this is a baked potato, this is a potato, this is an apple, and that these things either grow in a tree or they're under the ground. Um, but just think, when you buy something, let's say some of you says here a bag of pretzels, you can, if, like Chef AJ says, if it doesn't grow in a tree or on the ground, then don't buy it, don't eat it. Unfortunately or fortunately, we don't have trees that have pretzels hanging from them. um, so the idea here is to go back to what we were designed, whatever word you want to create it, design, meant to be, whatever, um, to eat for our survival, for our health, for our happiness, for our reproduction. Yes, also, it is hard to eat whole food plant-based when no one in my community eats this way. They do not want to give up the meat, dairy, or oil. Yes, but that is just about everywhere. Marsha wrote that. Just about. In some lucky places, you may find in a city or in a town a plant-based restaurant, but it is still the largely the exception. And if you find vegan restaurants, I usually say just run away from them, because usually they are loaded with processed vegan junk food, and especially with a lot of oil or oils, free oils, and fake cheeses and fake meats, and so it's difficult. And that's, if we could understand that that is difficult because we are not meant to be in that environment, I think that's the beginning perhaps of recovering. Try as much as possible to cook everything in your house, and if possible, take it to work or to wherever you spend your time during the day. And if you go out to eat, really eat a full meal, not just a little apple or a banana or a potato. Eat a full meal before you go, so that it's going to be easier for you to not be tempted, and that your senses are not going to be hijacked. And as much as possible, research the place where you're going, and just be ready to say to yourself, I'm going there to enjoy company. I will survive if I don't have a meal a day, that night or that lunch. But it is difficult. So, and we were talking about that yesterday in another webinar that I was doing. Okay, I have been eating whole food, plant-based for years. I take no pills. Interesting, when I talk to these people, they're all taking some type of pills. And that is one of the magic buttons in our modern society. Oh, I'll just have those, fill in the blank. I'll just take an extra cholesterol pill. Or I'll have this and that. I'll take another extra high blood pressure pill. Diabetics are known for this. Oh, it's not going to do anything. I'll just take a little more insulin. Well, those are magic buttons, you see, are self-destructive pleasure traps. I'm retired and eating this way. Love being healthy and living life. Well, guys, it has been a pleasure being with you. And I look forward to next week. We will be reading chapter 4 and maybe going into 5. And I may have a surprise then. So stay strong and have your book there to reread this. Go to my YouTube channel if you need ideas for some variety. There are free recipes there. And I will leave you with the video that I think I played. Yeah, I did. I played it last week. It's just fun. It has nice music, and I enjoy this video. It's about tomorrow for the tea with Dr. T. But if I don't see you there, it's a very intimate and nice group. If I don't see you there, I'll see you next Monday. And I may be doing a webinar that is going to be called Start Solution 101, with ideas and topics that I have learned all these years working with this, and also being certified by the McDougall Medical and Health Center to be a Start Solution coach. And remember that I do online coaching, and I usually help people, and I love that. Sometimes with just 30 minutes, we can solve an issue that seemed impossible to solve. So if you're interested in that, please email me, and I'll see you in another webinar, whether it is the book club or another one. And I'm going to leave you with this video.